people of the interwebs, I am Zach, and today I am here to do something that is going to be extremely difficult for me to do. I am going to undertake the task of ranking the 3 Lord of the Rings films. Lord of the Rings. 3 films that I consider to be near perfect in every way. Technically, musically, story-wise, acting, it's all there. And I'm going to try and rank them. This is like trying to rank my children. I don't even have children. This is like trying to rank my 3 favorite pairs of socks then. Yeah, we'll go with that. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Oh, and by the way, I'm ranking the live-action Lord of the Rings films, in case that wasn't clear. Not sure why anyone would be looking for a ranking of the old animated trilogy from the 1970s, but just wanted to lay that out there. Number 3, The Return of the King. Return of the King comes in at last place. That feels horribly wrong to say. I absolutely love this movie. It has some of the greatest moments in the trilogy. Theoden's battle speech, Faramir's charge, the entire battles of Minas Tirith and the Black Gate, and I could go on and on. The film does deliver an entirely satisfying conclusion to the story, and it took home a whopping 11 Academy Awards. I'd say it was one of the more successful endings of all time. However, this is the film of the 3 that I feel has the most flaws. It's a very long film at 3.5 hours long, and it feels like they could have ended it at 4 different points before the credits actually roll. I'm not crazy about the Deus Ex Machina that was the Army of the Dead, even though that's just taken right from the book. My last gripe I have with the film is that it kind of sidelines Aragorn a bit. He's my favorite character, and as a kid I always wanted to be Aragorn, but he has less screen time in Return of the King than the previous 2 films, even though the title refers to him. Don't get me wrong though, I do genuinely love this film. Well, when it came down to it, there had to be one in last place, right? But let's not forget that Return of the King also has the greatest movie video game of all time. So it's like a nice little moral victory there. Number 2, The Two Towers. You can't talk about The Two Towers without mentioning the immaculate battle scene that is Helm's Deep. It is, in my opinion, the best battle scene in film history. And it's the battle scene that I feel like every aspiring battle scene wants to compare itself to. I mean, you look at the Battle of Winterfell in the last season of Game of Thrones. They were hyping that up to be better than the Battle of Helm's Deep, and it wasn't. You couldn't see a goddamn thing, but that's neither here nor there. That horse has been beaten to death and into the afterlife, and I'm not one for animal cruelty, so let's get back to the Two Towers, shall we? The Battle of Helm's Deep is so good that if you cut everything else from the movie and isolated only the battle, it would still function as a fantastic short film. But fortunately for us, we don't need to do that because there's a lot more to love in this film. It continues to world build, introducing us to the kingdoms of Rohan and to a lesser extent Gondor. We are introduced to great new characters like Theoden, Eowyn, Faramir, and Aramir. Lots of rhymes there. And while we technically saw Gollum in Fellowship of the Ring for the briefest of moments, it is in this film that we get the first legendary motion capture performance from Andy Serkis. The only drawback to this film that I can really find is that I've always found the Ent plot thread to be pretty dull. I've always just wanted to fast forward through those scenes in order to get back to Helm's Deep, but I suppose it serves as a kind of palate cleanser and a change of pace. The Two Towers also has a very good movie video game as well. It's pretty old. I mean, the movie came out in the early 2000s, but definitely play it if you haven't. It's not as good as Return of the Kings, but it's still a lot of fun. And number 1, The Fellowship of the Ring. I realize that this is a somewhat unpopular opinion regarding the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Many people consider this film to be the slowest of the trilogy, and it's true, it is slower. But to me, slow doesn't always mean bad, and Fellowship of the Ring exemplifies this perfectly. The first half of the movie is all really just setting up for the trilogy. It doesn't feel laborious or like exposition is being shoveled down into our ears though. It feels like we're just along for the journey with Frodo and the gang. The Shire is beautiful and each new character we meet is fun and interesting. The film allows us to soak up everything it throws at us like a sponge. After the Fellowship is formed and the gang leaves Rivendell, the pace really begins to pick up. Unlike the next 2 sequels that follow, the battles in the Fellowship of the Ring are on a much smaller scale, and I don't think that makes them any less fun. The stand in Balin's tomb is perfectly executed and epic, as is the attack of the Uruk-hai at the end of the film. In fact, I think these smaller battles can feel even more intense than the larger ones. There are no red shirts in these battles. Every character at risk is a main character. In Helm's Deep and Minas Tirith, there are only a handful of characters we care about participating in the battles at any given time. But in the battles that take place in Fellowship, all of them are participating. And it's a total gut punch when Boromir is killed and Merry and Pippin are taken by the Uruks. I always found it interesting that the first entry in this trilogy was the film that had the darkest ending. Usually it will be the middle entry that does this, like Empire Strikes Back for example. But I mean, Gandalf is presumed dead, Boromir is dead, Merry and Pippin are taken, and the Fellowship is broken. It's as if Peter Jackson was saying, buckle up boys and girls, because we are not messing around in this trilogy. And what a trilogy it was. So that was my ranking of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your ranking is down in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe if you wish, and if you want to see me rank something else, just leave it in the comments below and I just may do that. Have a good one folks, and I'll see you in the next one.